Welcome to the Double Dribble podcast with Dubin and Dakhil. That's Jared Dubin, author of the great newsletter Last Night in Basketball. It's already in my mailbox, and that's impressive because I'm in New York. So it's, coming in right as I'm waking up in New York. So he's knocking that out each night, folks. Make sure you are subscribing to his newsletter, getting all that fun stuff. I'm not going to lie to you, folks. And Jared, I'm going to put them a little bit behind the scenes. He is a little bit nervous. We have switched over to a new streaming setup, so it's going to be a little bit different. So he's if he looks a little pensive at all, if you're watching on YouTube, it's because he's nervous about this. I don't think he should be nervous because we're two idiots. If it goes wrong, we're just going to say we're dumb and it doesn't matter. And I'm the other guy. Mo Dakhil, former video coordinator with the Clippers, Spurs, Team Australia. Right? Don't write anymore, really. Do videos for Offside. I'm a contributor on NBA TV. Make sure you're checking out the X Lives I'm doing with Alexis Morgan and Zach Harper. That's why I'm in New York. I'm in studio, folks. I'm doing X's and Mo's with a big video board. Kenny Smith, eat your heart out. I'm coming for your job. Oh, that was me being a little bit too excited. That happens because my wife posted something on Instagram and then it got me hyped up. So that's all. Jared, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to have X's and Mo's back in my life. Back in the Twitch days, right?
Yep, the Twitch days. We had a whole lot of stuff going on in Twitch, and then it just got too hard to keep up with everything once life started rolling in for me and trying to do Twitch. Jared, we got a lot to talk about. I don't want to waste too much time. I know you're doing well because I saw you last night. I met the dog, and let me just tell you, I'm a bit upset the dog liked Zach more than me. that definitely is a little bit of a like, yo, what the hell?
He knew that when he hears your voice, that means I'm doing work stuff.
Yeah, but like I don't want him to think like he can't hang with me. I'm cool. But anyways, and we know how much our listeners, and one in particular, loves when we talk about the dogs. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe to the RealGM feed. Make sure you give us 5 stars, and we're going to talk basketball now. I'm going to stop goofing off. Jared, we've had all the game ones done for the second round, and we're going to kind of just go in chronological order, and let's just go right off the bat, and it shouldn't take that long. Philly, New York. I mean, like just an utter beatdown.
Two-way ass kicking. The Knicks played just about as well as you can play on both ends of the court. And the only reason I didn't say as well as you could play on both ends of the court is because I saw them play game 6 against the Hawks, which was even more of a two-way ass kicking. And they played even better on both ends of the court than they did in game 1 against the Sixers. But wildly impressed with them again on both ends. They toyed with the Sixers, particularly defensively. Going at Joel Embiid basically every trip down the court. They ran 27 pick and rolls at him, and the only reason it wasn't like 57 was because he barely played in the game. They scored 1.6 points per possession on those pick and rolls, which is an outrageous number. You lead the league at like 1.2 something for the best pick and roll combos, and they were at 1.6 running it at Embiid. They were tiring him out. The one time that they got a switch on him, Brunson put him on skates when they changed the matchups, so Embiid wasn't guarding Karl-Anthony Towns anymore. OG Anunoby had like a fake roll to the rim and popped out to the perimeter for 3. They got whatever they wanted. They were running Mikal Bridges pick and rolls finally. He ran 21 pick and rolls the entire series against the Hawks. He ran 7 in game 1 against the Sixers. OG was getting drives. Brunson was getting whatever he wanted. Towns was getting threes from the top of the key. They were even running some of the same stuff that they ran against the Hawks with the stuff from the elbow and the flex cuts and things like that. The Sixers were taking it away early in the game, but then they got a few baskets out of it too. One time because Brunson cut back door and Embiid backed off, and then Towns just hit a 3. One time because OG went back door on a back screen from Brunson, and then Brunson got himself a little bit of a floater. Like, whatever the Sixers were doing on that end, the Knicks had an answer for. And then, I mean, the biggest thing to me on the other end of the court was, despite the Sixers going to the free throw line 34 times, the Knicks just held them down because they had an answer for Tyrese Maxey, which was Mikal Bridges and to a lesser extent Deuce McBride. I thought Bridges did a fantastic job on Maxey throughout the game, especially early in the game, just taking away him touching the ball at all and making him be passive early on. And that sort of set the Sixers offense back.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a total Like one, I want to say this, and this is important here, and we need to make sure we're very clear about this. I'm not falling for it again, Philly. You did this in round one against Boston and
Yeah.
literally destroyed. And we came on here. Series is basically over. This thing's done. All that. And then they came back and actually won game two. Were pretty impressive in the way they performed in that game. And I think that's something that you have to sort of pay attention to. And I think that's and the other thing you have to remember, there's a big difference when you're coming off a game seven.
Yep.
The other teams played one, took care of business in six, and had several more days rest. It was 1 day rest and boom, right there. And I know I get it. Everybody's like, oh, they did the team dirt. This is the way it goes. Don't go to seven. Don't go to game seven if that's the case, right? Don't go down 3-1 and have to come back and do all that stuff. Like that's part of the deal. I've been part of it where we've, when I was with the Clippers, we beat Memphis in game seven in a brutal, physical, beat you up series. Then flew to San Antonio and we got our asses kicked. Like we just didn't have any legs. We had to play, we had 1 day rest and then had to play. It was pretty tough. But to kind of go back to what you said about Bridges, because I think this is an underrated point. This is a tweet from Tommy Beer. Tyrese Maxey's production while being defended by Mikal Bridges in game one, over 31 possessions, 0 points, 0 for 2 from the field, 1 assist, 3 turnovers. He didn't even get shots off.
Yep.
On when Bridges was on him. This is why we said, and we said this last series, he is so important for them. If they're going to go to the finals, which is what they have, the championship aspirations, they absolutely need Bridges because it's stuff like that. Like that was such a pivotal, Jesus. Pivotal. I'm tired, folks. Pivotal situation right there. Like you got to kind of understand, like, that's why they need him. And it's really important right there. We're going to get a better Maxey, I think, in game two. But I think it's really important that, like, that's the effort and the level they need from Mikal on that end of the floor. And then, like you said, offensively, it was too much, man. They were just too, like, overwhelming offensively. Like you said, and they're going to put Embiid in every pick and roll. Every pick and roll. I think that's just something that the Sixers are going to have to figure out how they want to defend that.
Yeah, and no matter what they did in game one, it didn't work. They were in the drop, it didn't work. They tried to come up higher, it didn't work. There were a couple times when they switched the matchups, they tried to switch it, it didn't work. The Knicks obviously have answers for a lot of that. I don't know that the Sixers have really good answers for a Brunson Towns pick and roll in particular. Even if you want to switch it with like PG and Oubre or something along those lines, I think you can still get good stuff out of that. And especially when they go and they start attacking Maxey with the other guys, they did that especially when Embiid was on the bench and they were throwing Maxey into pick and rolls. It was, Bridges, Robinson pick and rolls, attacking Maxey and Andre Drummond. There's not a particularly good answer for that too, other than Maxey staying incredibly stout at the point of attack, which he has so much responsibility on the offensive side of the ball. This has been a better defensive season for him than it was over the last few years, but it's still tough, especially when he's got to do so much. And they really need to get him going offensively early in game two. Like that's got to be the way that they attack early on in the game. They got to get him moving downhill so that the Knicks have to react to him rather than just sitting in the post against Embiid.
That's got to be the focal point right there. And I think, the Embiid post-ups need to come next. And I think the important thing is they have to start with getting the attacks early from Maxey, getting him downhill, springing him downhill, him and Paul George, for that matter as well. Edgecombe will find his offense in that sense. And Edgecombe's got to be the guy defensively, I think, that has to kind of carry the load a bit more so that Maxey can have more. And I'm not saying he's not, folks, before anybody gets all mad or anything like that. Just saying, like, he needs to focus a little bit more defensively this series so that Maxey can have a little bit more juice. But the other thing that was kind of a crazy number for me, I was looking it up this morning, was the wide open threes. Because I remember there were too many parallels from game one of round one for me with this series. And granted, no Embiid in game one, we should have mentioned, in that Phillies Boston series. They missed a ton of wide open threes. I'm not sure how many of them came in the first half or the second half when the game was kind of over by halftime. but they missed a ton of wide open threes. Same situation in the Boston game. And they got pretty good looks. I think they shot 14% on wide open threes, and I think they got about 14 according to NBA data, that they just sort of blew it away. And I think that's going to be something I want to watch for in particular in game 2. If they can knock down those threes, that's going to be a big difference maker for them.
I will say I took a look at the shot quality data, and the Knicks lapped them on the shot quality data, despite the fact that they did miss a bunch of open threes. So I'm not like, I don't want to chalk it up to just shot variance when I thought that the Knicks were very good.
It wasn't shot variance. I'm just saying, like, that's just something to look at when they got that many open looks. The Knicks defense was suffocating, especially in the second quarter, where they really kind of broke this game open, and it was going on runs, right? They were getting a bunch of kills, which is 3 stops in a row. And then, on the other end, scoring on all those possessions. That's how you build that big run. But I just think it's something to kind of just keep an eye on, though, when you're looking at it going into this game 2, of like, if I'm Philly, I'm trying to find things of going like, hey, we can do this a little bit better. Granted, it's all tired legs, but we can do this a little more. We can do this a little. We can try to, we're getting the looks we kind of want to some degree. We just got to hit them when we get them. And I think that's the important thing for them going forward. What is your single biggest adjustment you think Philly's going to make?
I think that they will probably not have Embiid guarding Towns from the jump. Whether it's he's guarding OG or Hart, it's not going to be Towns right away, I don't think. Because you don't want to just be sitting against that Brunson Towns pick and roll the whole game again.
I was surprised they had him on that. Like, that was the thing right off the bat. I was like, I don't know if I just don't know, man, if I would have done that. I'd have probably hit him on Hart. Not to say Hart's not going to be in the pick and roll, but like, I don't think I would live with the pick and pops. It's easier to be in drop versus Hart than you're going to be in against Cat. Like, I think that one surprised me the most with how they got going there. And I agree with you. I think that will be the biggest adjustment, will be sort of their matchup adjustment right off the bat. If he's on Cat again, this might be a quick series.
I do wonder if we see more of Oubre on Brunson too, rather than mostly Edgecombe. I wonder if we see that just to get a little bit more size and length on him too.
I think they should just switch it up. I think they should just kind of like couple possessions and the next guy, like keep Brunson sort of guessing on who's on him. And granted, that's hard also to constantly coordinate defensively.
Yeah.
But it's in that sense. But I think that's something to keep an eye on into what they get going there. For the Knicks, this is the thing that's the hardest. There really is no other adjustment. Keep doing what you're doing. That's your adjustment. Like, you're kicking everybody's ass right now. Last couple of games, like, you're rolling. Just don't lose sight of it. Continue doing the stuff you're doing. Play hard defensively. Your offense will come. You'll find your flow, and get a rhythm. You got to kind of just keep that shit going. And I think it's important that you stay with that. If you're the Knicks, just don't lose focus of how you got there. And it's not as much the offense, it's your defense. Your defense has been stellar.
Yeah. And I think being willing to change, like if Embiid gets going in the post, like you got to be willing to change things up, whether or where you're bringing your doubles from, depending on who's guarding him. And I think you got to be willing to, like, if Maxey gets going early, throw hard on him for a few possessions and see how that works, something along those lines.
Yeah, that's going to be important there. We'll have to see how that works out. All right, I don't want to spend too much time on it because the Sixers got their ass whooped. So we just got to go into the game of the night. That night was San Antonio, Minnesota, and Ant played. I didn't think he was going to play game 1. It was kept going closer and closer. That's pretty impressive for him to have played that. I thought he might play game 2. When we were podcasting Sunday night, it seemed like, there's actually might be something. I thought game 2 was the thing. And he looked okay for the first 3 quarters, had a great fourth quarter. Really got going. The last, up until the last 4 minutes.
Yeah. I was going to say he had that brutal turnover on the inbounds pass. I mean, he talked himself about how he had a couple missed box outs where that led to the Champagny offensive rebounds. There was some struggles down, like the very end of the game.
down the stretch, but he also is the reason why. If you go watch the beginning of that fourth quarter, from the beginning of the fourth quarter to about the 4-minute mark, he was unstoppable. Like on the other end, the Spurs had no answer for him. Starts with a big three to start the quarter. He goes on a attack Champagne on one play, and it was scary because after he makes the layup, he like reaches back down to his knee and stuff. So it's not fully where he wants to be at. And then they run an Iverson action for him 3 different times and get buckets out of it each time. It was pretty kind of a solid performance from him. Not his best, obviously, down the stretch. I mean, he almost became the scapegoat.
Yeah.
In that instance. What did you see in this game? I want to start with Minnesota defensively because they just did a great job. You know, Fox struggled. Wemby really wasn't as dominant as he was in the Portland series. What did you see on that end of the floor?
Yeah, I mean, it's cliche, but they did the thing that everybody wants to do to Wemby, which is they got physical and they got up underneath him and were living inside his shirt all game long. Like, that's what you have to do against him. We're at that point of his career where the big thing is you just have to be as physical as possible. And he's going to be able to deal with that better as his career goes along. It's still something that can bother him a little bit at this point. He's only in year 3. He still weighs like 195 or whatever it is at 7'6". Like, you can get into him a little bit and force him to play more out on the perimeter. And I think that's what they did. He wasn't getting as close to the basket as you would ideally like him to. What did he go? 0 for 8 from 3, I think, if I'm remembering. Yeah. 0 for 8 from 3 and 5 for 9 on 2s. So not even particularly dominant inside the arc either, but they made him play outside, whether it was Gobert or Randall. They were just keeping him away from the basket, even on like the corner cuts that they have him run where they have one of the guards set a screen for him. He wasn't getting into the lane on those either, where usually he gets all the way to the basket on that type of thing. He was popping out to the perimeter on that kind of stuff and just being too willing to settle. And then with Fox, I mean, he was just throwing the ball all over the place, you know, beyond shooting. What was it? 5 for 14. He had the 6 turnovers and those were huge. A couple of them were just lazy passes too.
Yeah. And it was pretty, I mean, to Fox's credit, he took accountability of like, yeah, I was bad in this game. And I think that was sort of they need obviously both those guys, but I think Fox has to be more decisive in how he gets them. Because if they're going to be physical with Wemby and put all this emphasis on keeping Wemby out of the paint, that's going to open up areas for these guys to attack. Especially, we always talk about the 3-headed monster. I think, you know, Dylan Harper between those 3 guards played the best, you know, especially offensively. I think Castle was too foul hungry. And I think that was a thing that got them in trouble. I mean, he didn't foul out, right? But he came damn close.
No, he fouled out with like 3 minutes left.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. So he did foul out. Sorry. A lot of games at once, folks. It's hard to keep track. Like, it's just, there's too much going through it. And I have a pea-sized brain, so it is a little difficult for me. I think let's go to this because they did almost blow it. Champagne was awesome down the stretch, right? The offensive rebounds he talked about, Ant misses those box out, but he comes up with big plays after big plays. What was your viewpoint of the timeout, no timeout call from Mitch Johnson?
I'm generally okay with it, especially given the shot that they got. Like, I don't know if you're getting a better shot than an open 3 for either your best or second best shooter, depending on how you categorize Champagne and Vassell. Are you going to get a better look than that, drawing up a play in the half court? Maybe. Like, you might have a better chance to get to the rim and get fouled if you're drawing up a play in the half court, but they got an open 3 for a really good shooter. I can't complain about it.
Yeah, I think sometimes people are playing the results here a little bit, and we tend to do this a lot. Why didn't you call a timeout? Why, you know, I think there's I'm going to start off the bat. There's no right answer, right? Like, just right away, there's positives for not calling the timeout. There's positives for calling the timeout. And I think that's kind of the starting point here for me. I look at it at a few things. I think, one, Rudy was off the floor for that possession. right? Because it's an offensive possession for the Wolves. I don't want to give them a chance to put one of their best defenders on the floor, right? By calling the timeout. It's 7 seconds. Some of the Spurs players looked surprised they weren't calling the timeout. So did some of the Wolves players, by the way.
That was the only reason that I was like second guessing it, because even Harper, when he got the rebound, it didn't look like he knew to go right away. So they might have had an extra half a second or something like that.
But I think the chaos was a good thing for them in that instance. And I think it wasn't like, look, on a night where Wemby's not hitting his threes, he's not getting into the paint and is struggling in a large portion. Fox is struggling. Like it's not a game where it's like, cool, I'm going to call a timeout and make sure I get the ball to the hot player. And I think the other thing here, and I don't think people give enough respect to it, and I don't think when you're calling the timeout and you're going to say, yeah, we get to run our play. So the defense gets to set their defense. And there's a small thing that I don't think it's like minutia a little bit, or we kind of just overlook it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of plays where the defending the inbounder blows up the play, right? Like it doesn't go to your first option. I was listening to Legler talk on Zach Lowe's podcast, and he's like, yeah, you could run a play and get it to Wemby at the elbow. I'm like, how did you feel confident at all after watching this game that they would get an entry pass off an inbounds in a clutch situation to Wemby at the elbow? I don't care how high you have to throw it. I just think like you're banking on a lot of stuff where it's like, no. And I was good with it, regardless whether the shot went in or not, regardless even the shot they got. Like, yeah, if they didn't get a shot off, I'd have been like, oh, dude, you got to use your timeout. But I think just everybody was kind of caught off guard. You had an opportunity. Champagny with a clean look at a three. I got no problems with it. And I think it's something also, this is the other thing people have to realize. It is a split second for a coach to make that decision, right? Like, as soon as Harper makes the pass, and you correct me if I'm wrong, you can't advance the ball anymore.
Right.
Like, so
you're right.
It is a split second decision in that moment. And I think that's where it gets hard too. So I think they went in pretty confident with like Rudy off the floor. They probably weren't going to call a timeout if they had a chance. And I mean, either way, I'd have been fine, but like they got a good look. That's just a tough break right there.
Yeah, I do wonder if they would have even brought Gobert back on the floor with the 7.5 seconds left. Like maybe you're in switch everything mode. So would they even have brought Rudy back in? I don't know, one way or the other.
Because it was a 2-point lead, I think you do, because you have the rim protection. If it's a 3-point lead, I'm in switch everything mode and I'm not bringing Rudy back. But it being a 2-point lead, I'm not. I want to make sure I have an anchor at the rim, especially with a guy like Wemby coming. And he did well on Wemby. We should also mention Wemby was freaking unbelievable on defense with his, whatever, 8 blocks, 12 blocks, whatever you want to talk about, goaltending, whatever, whatnot. Absolutely insane.
There was one very clear goaltending. Like I know Vince complained about a bunch of them. There was one that was like, it hit the backboard like a full second before Wemby slapped it away.
1,000%. I'm not arguing that they weren't goaltends, in their complaints and everything like that. I'm not arguing that at all. Still goddamn impressive.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk after the game, like, oh, they went at the best rim protector in the league and it worked. Like he had 12 blocks and the Wolves had a 108.4 offensive rating. It worked insofar as they won the game. It did not work insofar as like their offense was good.
I'll tell you why they thought it worked, and this is
because they won.
But it's because the Spurs offense was bad, right? If the Spurs were hitting their shots, this would have looked worse, right? This would have been a different game, right? The Spurs shot poorly from 3. They had Wemby struggling every which way, Fox throwing the ball out of bounds and going off in every which way. When you look at it that way, you can be like, yeah, we attacked the rim. We are aggressive. Yes, you have to be. It also, about 14% of your shots were blocked. You won't win a lot of games that way. Sorry, you won't. You just won't.
Look, they did have some good rim attacks, like Terrence Shannon Jr. in particular, but most of those, the best ones came when Wemby was off the court and he was going at Luke Cornett. and he had a couple of inside hand finishes. And there were a couple of them where Wemby was actually guarding him on the perimeter, and they were screening the help defender and got him to the basket a couple of times. So it wasn't like we attacked Wemby and found success doing that at the rim. It was we attacked Luke Cornett and found success doing that. Granted, he only played like 8 minutes, but those were some pretty damaging minutes when he was out there. And then we attacked when Wemby was on the perimeter. We were going at the basket and had a little bit of success that way. It wasn't like we went at Wemby at the basket and that was the key to our offense, which was good in the game. None of that was true.
Right. That's the thing. I think the one thing they did find offensively when they're going at Wemby is putting him in the pick and roll a little bit more just to pull him away from the paint. And I think we'll see more of that in game 2. I also think the Spurs are going to make more of an effort to keep Wemby in the paint. There's one possession where the one I was talking about where Ant got the layup on Champagny. It's because they got Randall to clear out, and Wemby left with Randall. I was surprised when I go back and I'm like, why did you leave? Like, just stay. You gave up the baseline right there. I'll be interested to see how they kind of overload the floor a little bit if you're San Antonio, and I'll be curious to see how Minnesota, how often they put Wemby in the pick and rolls, because I think that'll be something I would be looking to do if I was Minnesota. Any quick adjustments here?
I would tell the officials to look out for Randall screening the help defender, because he did that 3 times, and I thought that they could have been illegal screens.
Well, I mean, it's the Gortat, but like I think the one that got Ant a wide open layup in that fourth quarter run, like if you're Wemby, you also have to fight it more and show. So
Randall was like with his arms spread and holding him back.
You have to like and backing up. Like you have to actually like put the fight up so that the call happens is in that.
And that's not really an adjustment. And I don't like talking about refs, but that was like Randall had 3 different instances of those screening the help defender, and they all worked. So keep looking out for it.
Yeah,
get Wemby closer to the rim on offense. Like you got to make sure that you get him closer to the rim. It can't half his shots can't be threes. Like even if he go, like granted, if he goes 1 for 8 from 3, they win the game. But I want him closer to the basket on offense too.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something to keep focused on when you're going through it with the Spurs. All right. Any last thoughts here?
No, I think we can take our quick break and move on to the next game.
All right, you beat me to it. All right, we'll be right back after these messages. And we are back, folks. Welcome to the Double Dribble podcast again. I'm assuming you just stayed with us. I don't know why I did a welcome all over again. I'm getting used to these things, folks, these ad breaks and stuff, and how am I supposed to come back to it? All right, we got to talk about the games last night. Let's just get the bad one out of the way. Lakers are drawing dead against Oklahoma City. I'm sorry. I don't have much of a analysis here. They just don't have enough.
No, and we don't want to overreact to game 1, but I don't think this is an overreaction. Last night was the first time this season that they weren't trailing the Lakers by 30 at the half. I saw Law Murray say that. I feel like it can't be true, but if Law said it, then I feel like it probably is. So they kept it closer for most of the game than they did throughout the regular season. But yeah, I mean, they just don't have it on offense. They had what they have. I got to look it up. The turnovers. They had 17 turnovers. You're not winning if you turn the ball over 17 times against this Thunder team. And the limbs and the swarming and everything, when you really only have 2 ball handlers with LeBron and Reeves, and I guess 2.5 if you want to count Luke Kennard, who plays 29 minutes, only goes 1 for 4 in this game. It seems like the magic has sort of worn off from what you had early in that Rockets series. And then on the other end of the court, they basically made it their mission to make sure that Shea did not have a huge game. Great job. They held him to 18 points. They forced a season-high 7 turnovers, and everybody else did whatever they wanted.
Yeah, that's like exactly it, right? Like you do a good job. I don't want to say shutting down Shea, but this is going to be Shea's worst game of the playoff series, right? Of this series. right? You force him into
It might
7
be his worst
turnovers.
game of the playoffs. He had 7 turnovers against 6 assists. Granted, he goes
Yeah,
8 for 15 from the field for 18 points is like not bad, you know.
yeah, it's the turnovers is the thing, right? And this is they break the 20-point streak of Shea. I think the last since game 3 of the Western Conference Finals last year. So great, all of that's great. You still got your ass kicked down the stretch.
Yeah.
You kept it close, and I don't feel like you got the Thunder's best shot. Like
No.
it's almost like, let me put you this way: at no point did I feel like the Thunder were threatened. And what should worry Laker fans more than anything else, I don't think the Thunder felt they were threatened. They're laughing on the bench in the second quarter when it was still like a 9 or 10-point game. Like it's not, you're not going to get a lot of like fear from me. So like, let's just do it from a little bit from the Lakers side. Like, what do you think they can try to do to make this more of a game?
Honestly, I think that making everybody other than Shea beat you is probably the right strategy. Like, I feel like they went into it the right way. Like, we're not going to let him go off. And they did a great job of forcing turnovers. They didn't let him get to the line. He only took 3 free throws. They were jumping him at half court when he was coming over on ball screens or isolations. Like, I feel like that's the right move, but you have to have the scramble behind it. You can't leave Chet Holmgren wide open for 8 of his 9 baskets. You know, like, I feel like I don't know that there's anything tactically that I would do differently.
Right. I think it's and that's the worst place to be in as a coach when you're going in the playoffs. Like, because now it's like, all right, what do we do now? Right. Like, we got what we wanted out of Shea and we still can stop him. The problem for the Lakers is they don't have the personnel to scramble properly out of this.
Yeah.
Right. And then on top of that, they don't have the offensive firepower. You talked about it. Kennard's, the Magic's worn off. LeBron's 41, man. Like, he's getting tired. This is going to be a game every other day right now.
And he was really good. He was 12 for 17 from the field.
But it almost doesn't matter, right? Like, you need all the other guys to deliver, and I just don't see how they kind of hold up here. I don't foresee this one being a quick series. I foresee this one being a quick series. Mm-hmm. I don't see how they can kind of maintain. If they had Luka, I'd feel different, right? Because then I could feel like offensively they can really have more firepower. But you got Reeves coming off the injury. You have LeBron that's just not really. He's old, man. Like, it's fun when LeBron has a great game. We go, look at what he's doing. He's 41. Can you believe it? And when he has a bad game, we go, he's 41. What did you expect? Right? Like, there's that kind of aspect of it. But you're not going to survive. And in a game where, look, the Thunder, they're going to put a lot of pressure on Reeves. He struggled. 3 of 16 from the field, 4 turnovers. Like, you need more from him. And he's coming back from an injury. I don't feel like he's fully healthy and ready to go. And then you had the nasty Vanderbilt injury, which, like, that's pretty brutal there.
I did that to my finger back in the day. It's not fun.
Apparently he also needed stitches. I don't think you needed stitches.
No, that means that the bone popped out, I guess. Mine didn't do that.
Yeah, so be thankful about that. I don't want to go in too long about this one. Is there anything else you want to hit on?
Yeah, there was a 5-minute stretch in the first quarter where the Thunder didn't make a shot and the Lakers were only leading by 1 at that point. And I was like, all right, this game is over.
Series is over. Like, really, at that point, like, you're not really going to be able to do much. Let's move on to the other game, which was actually a really interesting game. Both teams coming off of a game 7, Cleveland and Detroit. We're in Detroit. Like, I don't know if James Harden knows it was game 1 and not game 6, but that was a very game 6 performance from him. 6 of 15 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3, 7 turnovers, more turnovers than field goals made for him.
29th time in his playoff career, more turnovers than field goals.
But it's like, that was an appalling performance. Like, he couldn't get by Duncan Robinson. he was losing the ball with Robinson on him. And I'm like, come on, man. I know Duncan's a little bit better defender than we want to give him credit, but like, holy cow.
It was less than ideal, to say the least. I thought that they didn't get a particularly good performance from their front court guys either. Obviously, Jared Allen in foul trouble in the first half only plays 6 minutes, but then he only plays, 12 minutes in the second half?
Yeah,
he gets 18 minutes. He goes 1 for 4 from the field, only 2 points, 3 rebounds. Granted, they were +4 in his minutes, and I thought maybe he could have closed down the stretch because Evan Mobley wasn't having a particularly good game either. I thought he was struggling with the physicality on the inside, which is something that we talked about coming into the series. Like, were the Cavs big guys going to be able to deal with the physicality up front? And it didn't feel like they were in this game. I thought the biggest sequence of the game was the Cavs somehow come all the way back and tie the game. It's 93-93. Cade misses a floater in the lane. Then Harden comes down on the other end, gets a floater blocked by Jalen Duren. Cade Duren pick and roll. Cade drops it off to Duren on the inside. Jalen Tyson comes down, misses a floater. Either Cade Robinson or Cade Jenkins pick and roll, drops it off to Duren on the inside. Cavs come down, miss again. Cade gets downhill, drops it off to Duren again. 3 possessions in a row, Cade to Duren to push the lead back up to 6, and that was the sequence that basically decided the game.
And this was a good Duren game, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think
even though he didn't score, he only had 5 points until that sequence, and he was already playing well before that. Like, despite the fact that he wasn't doing a ton offensively, he was already playing very well.
They had no answer for him on the boards. He had 7 offensive rebounds, had 12 total rebounds, 7 of them offensive. Mm-hmm. Like, that was like, when we were talking about the physical, that's what we're talking about, right? Like, that's where that's what we're worried about the Cavs. And then on top of that, 19 turnovers. You're not going to win a game. You're not going to win a playoff game that way when you're giving away 19 possessions. Coincidentally, like, it's funny that didn't lead to a lot more shots for the Pistons. They only outshot them by 4, but they also got to the line 35 times because they were the aggressor. It wasn't the refs. It wasn't officiating. It wasn't flopping. They were the aggressors in that game, and you could see it in the way they came out. They built a huge lead. It looked like Cavs didn't have anything. They slowly chipped away, like you said, get back to 90, 93, tie it up. But I'm impressed with the Pistons because they could have easily folded right there. Fuck, we blew this lead. Like this, they just kind of stepped it up. And like you said, they just go to work in that instance. I was pretty impressed with their performance. I'm pretty sure I picked the Cavs, right, to win the series. I don't remember. But 31 points conceded off of the turnovers. You can't do that, man.
A bunch of that was on dead ball turnovers, though, which is really interesting, where they would come and score off of the dead ball turnover. Like, I remember in the first half, they had 20 points off the turnovers in the first half alone. And Nate Duncan was saying on Twitter or Blue Sky or somewhere that only 7 of them came off of live ball turnovers. So they had 13 points off of dead ball turnovers, which is really, like, even more impressive. But the fact that they were scoring off of so many of the giveaways is obviously huge.
Well, it's just turnovers in general just kill you because it take away your chance to score. And then when you let them score off of it, like, it's just brutal in the way they played. Wasn't really impressed with Donovan Mitchell's game either. I don't feel like he played with any real intention. Like, the numbers look fine. 9 of 19, 4 of 10 from 3, 23 points, 3 turnovers. The 3 turnovers look good better when you compare it to 7 from Harden. I'm going to keep mentioning that. But only got to the line twice. Like, it didn't feel like he was ready to really go at it. And I think that was the thing where I was watching it going like, man, I don't feel like he was as locked in. I don't know if he was tired. I mean, they're the older team in terms of coming off of game 7, but like, you can't say enough about the Cavs, who were just completely locked in. Robinson was great. Tobias Harris continuing his run of I think the last 5 games. Like, you're getting a lot of good stuff. Asur Thompson, solid defensively. Again, just all over the place. Like,
I'm glad you went there because I thought he was phenomenal in this game. He did a great job on Mitchell when he was on him throughout the game. He had 4 offensive rebounds. He has baskets in a variety of ways. He has like a cut off of a Dennis Jenkins pick and roll, just sort of roaming the baseline like he usually does. He had a couple of really nice passes doing the same thing. He gets like a spinning interior dish to Isaiah Stewart. He gets another one pushes off the break gets the ball to Robinson on the wing, gets it back from him, gets another dish to Stewart on the inside, gets out on the fast break for a couple of dunks. He had a steal in the backcourt, which he wound up giving the ball back right away because he was like falling out of bounds. He had this incredible chase down block on Keon Ellis where, I mean, Ellis catches the ball on the steal, like outside the 3-point line. Asar is still below the free throw line when Ellis gets the ball, and he just chases him down and blocks it off at the backboard. I mean, that was unbelievable. I thought he was fantastic the entire game.
Yeah, he was great. Like, I just think that they were primed and ready to go for this game. And like, this is the first game one they've won in a long time, right? Was this a stat I had seen? Like, since, like, granted, they hadn't been in the playoffs a lot prior to this run, but like, it was like, God, I can't remember. I don't want to give out the wrong stat.
I think they said at the end of the game that they had lost like 12 games in a row in the playoffs to the Cavs.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, God damn, that's crazy. That's tough right there. Looking forward to, I mean, the easy answer was what should the Cavs do? Maybe not turn the ball over. Starting point. Was there anything tactically you would look at with the Cavs? Like, for my biggest issue is I don't think they played with any force. And I think it's not a tactical thing. It's a force thing. And the problem is that's kind of been the makeup of their team for the past few years.
I was going to say the exact same thing, that I don't know if it's tactics. You got to get Harden and Mitchell going downhill, and you got to get Mobley and Allen playing with more physicality on the inside, and you need Allen to be on the court for more than 18 minutes.
I do want to mention this guy because this guy I thought was going to swing the game for the Cavs. Max Strus was awesome.
Yeah.
He was great. Like, he came in, and we've talked about him sometimes it's a little bit crazy. Like, he's got that Miami craziness in him, a little bit of cafecito, and he goes a little nuts. But like, he had a nice run where it was Dennis Schroeder drives. This is when they tie the ball game or come close to or start going on that run. Schroeder drives the lane, kicks it out to Strus. Strus immediately drives off that, gets a layup, gets a stop on the other end off a pick and roll, pulls in to poke the ball away. I think it was Isaiah Stewart dropping down. That leads to Dennis Schroeder layup. It made it a 4-point game. Pistons call a timeout. But like, you need to have the Max Strus energy if you're the Cavs. Like, all those guys need to bring that type of juice in game 2. And I think we're going to have a long series. I think this one's going to go, forget what my prediction was. I know I picked the Cavs, but I think this is going to go 7. But I think you need to channel that energy from him. And I'm not going to, maybe I move him into the starting lineup over Dean Wade.
Who's guarding Cade if you do that, though, is the problem.
That's the problem. It's probably going to be Strus, but it's not like, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't feel like Dean Wade did a great job on him either. So, but it's like, if it can jumpstart my offense or at least my energy and my fight, I might have to consider that.
Yeah, or maybe you start with Jalen Tyson.
Yeah, he was good, but not great in this game. Like, he's had good runs. Sorry, I'm rolling with my chair. This isn't what I'm used to. Normally when I'm podcasting at home, my chair doesn't stay, and I just keep rolling back and forth with my chair like a little dork. If you're watching on YouTube, that's why I kept going back and forth. I think more important, I don't know if you can get a lot out of Dean Wade starting. I think you need to start figuring out either Tyson or even Strus. I know it's questions of who can guard Cade. It's not like I feel like Wade's going to be the answer for you in terms of guarding Cade all that much. Anything else on this one?
Yeah, I thought that Schroeder had a really nice run at the end of the third quarter that helped them spring into that comeback where they cut it to 4 before Ron Holland made the desperation 3 at the end of the third. Oh, the desperation 3s by Ron Holland and Javonte Green at the end of the third and first quarters, respectively, were basically the only reason that the Pistons were up by 7 going into the fourth quarter. And then Dennis Jenkins coming back from the dead in the last 2 games, where he was really bad at the start of the previous series against the Magic, but Game 7 against the Magic and Game 1 here against the Cavs, I thought he played really well.
He had a great peel off of that led to a turnover. I think it was really when the the game was in the balance in the fourth quarter. He comes off James Harden comes off a pick and roll. He has Duran on, excuse me. He has Duran on him. Jenkins slides in front of Mobley to get the deflection, and then it becomes a steal for Duran, who got the loose ball. But like, he is making a lot of smart plays. My only concern is I think it's going to be up and down with him all playoffs. However long their playoffs go, I think you're going to have a couple of good games. You're going to have a couple of bad games. It's just the way it's going to be with him. What you got to hope is he strings more good games than bad games, and for longer stretches, I think is really the situation there. Okay, let's take another quick break, and then let's just run through some news and get out of here. The music doesn't last very long on the quick break return there, folks. So it's a quick beat. Not as fun as the Nintendo music we had. Damn you guys, you copyright infringement folks. All right, we've had some news. Let's start with the most obvious one. Jamal Mosley, I think, was handed his pink slip as he got off the plane in Orlando. I think it was something where, when you look at the fact you blew a 3-1 lead, but it's not just you blew a 3-1 lead, it was in such embarrassing fashion, right? Like, that game 6 is going to haunt Orlando fans for a very long time. And I think that is something that that sealed it for him, assuming they weren't going to win game 7. But like, he did a good job. He took the team as far as they can go, with him. I think it's time to bring in a head coach that can actually bring in an offensive focus sort of deal here. It's funny, like, Tibbs's name pops up immediately, and it's, I'm like, oh God, like, there's no creativity, but he's also had good offenses. But I'm like, I don't know if you can do in Orlando what you did in New York with Jalen Brunson and whatnot. So this is going to be interesting to see who ends up getting there. I think it's if I had to bet, I think it'll be Billy Donovan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know who it's going to be, but I think even beyond blowing the 3-1 lead, the fact that they couldn't get higher than 19th in offensive rating in 5 years sort of seals your fate. Like, you can't go 5 years in a row with a below average offense, only get out of the bottom 10 once. And that was despite the fact that they traded for Desmond Bane this year. Like, you're just not going to be the head coach anymore if you have a string like that.
And I just didn't feel like they put enough of an offensive package together over the course of the season that it's like there was just no creativity in their offense. There was no concept of how to attack guys. There were no focus on any of that stuff. It was pretty frustrating and disappointing to sort of see it, especially because go to our previous feed, the preseason stuff. I was very high on this team. I thought they were going to be a lot better. Their defense fell off on top of that, which is your calling card. Just no chance there. The other bit of news.
Wait. Just quickly. They did fall off to 11th defensively, which was important. And I will say that my concern coming into the season was, what if they only get to a slightly below average offense or slightly above average offense rather than leap into the top 10 like some people expected after they traded for Desmond Bane? And then that's exactly what happened. And I will ask, like, you are more when it comes to coaching searches, I'm more concerned with just do a big search, and you're more of maybe you should have an idea of who you're going to go after.
Situational. It's situational. You're putting this on me in a way, Jared, I don't like, and painting me in a corner. It's situational. It's when you fire your coach after going to the conference finals for the first time since 1999 that you fire. You better make sure you have a damn good option after that. In this instance, I think you cast a wide net, but you have a parameter here. You have a thing of like, what can you do offensively with this team? What's your vision offensively with this team? This is where we're struggling here. And then there's other questions too for Orlando beyond that. Do you look, what are we doing with Paolo? Is this the right guy for us? I do think if Franz was healthy, they win the series, and Mosley probably only loses his job next season when they start out slow versus getting fired in the offseason. But I think the you have to look at, like, when you're going through the coaching search, okay, what's your thought process? How are you going to use Bane more? And the organization and they have stuff that Anthony Black's going to be up for an extension. What are you going to do with that? Jalen Suggs is not consistent enough as a shooter. We know he's the glue guy for the team, but like he killed them in those last couple of games with his inability to knock down shots. Like, what are we doing with that? And he's on an extension and a pretty large contract. So like, what's our plan here? Like, you got a lot of answers that you have to figure out, but in the coaching search, cast a wide net. I don't mind that Dusty May's name's being floated around, and trying to figure out, like, get creative, because you need to find somebody that can get you some stuff offensively.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay. I'm trying to pin me down and paint me in the corner. It's situational, Jared. It's situational.
You're still certainly more towards that end than I am, where all I care about is the process. And if you land on someone that is not necessarily someone that I would have made my hire, like, at least you went through the process. And if you think that guy has the best plan, then who am I to say he doesn't, because I'm not in those interviews. So as long as you go and turn over every rock, I'm okay with your coaching search.
Well, let's go to the next bit of news. Bryson Graham gets the Chicago Bulls job. Basically going to lead their front office, which was a bit of a surprise, because the whole time I thought it was going to be Matt Lloyd in Minnesota. It already sounded like he was going to bring Micah Norris with him to be the Micah Norrie to be the head coach of the Bulls. Like, it really felt like that was all going, and then all, like, the Shams news hit, and I was like, wait, what? What? It kind of caught me off guard for a second. Bryson Graham, a lot of people probably won't know, a very good talent evaluator. Went from New Orleans to Atlanta and now is in Chicago. Good dude. This is solid talent evaluation, which is kind of what the Bulls need right now. And I think the first thing, obviously, he needs to do next is figure out who he wants to be the head coach. But this is going to be an interesting thing. He's been in the running before at other places. This, I think, is going to be a pretty good hire, but this is an important one for the Bulls because they're kind of at that crossroads.
Yeah, it's obviously important. You need to pick a direction of the franchise. It seems like they have sort of picked the direction of the franchise where they're going younger and maybe actually being willing to rebuild the team. Obviously, we saw them at the deadline trade some of their older pieces. Granted, maybe you should have kept Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White. Those guys are good players, and you didn't really get much for them. And you didn't really get much for Nikola Vucevic either. You just get the Anthony Simons contract. But, yeah, I mean, I can't say that I know too much about Graham beyond the career path and the fact that he's considered like a pretty good evaluator of talent. So, we'll see how that goes. But obviously the biggest potential domino here is what's the coaching staff, the coaching search going to look like. And that's going to be the first test to see what happens there.
Leave it to the Bulls to be focused on being mediocre when the NBA rewards being really bad in the draft. And then now deciding we're going to be really bad when the NBA is potentially going to change the tanking rules, where being mediocre might be a good thing. Like, just leave it to the Bulls to just be in the wrong place all the time. Like, it's just phenomenal in that instance. And then I was a little bit surprised. It's a good hire, but Masai Ujiri to Dallas. Dumas wanted a name, and there was rumors he's been trying to get Bob Myers. Bob Myers is happy with his, I get to, kind of parachute in on like 12 different teams whenever I want as part of the Josh Harris group. Tim Conley didn't seem like that was going to happen. Pretty impressive hire. I liked Masai. Already had the press conference. I like the way he's already said, like, I came here because I want to build around Cooper Flagg. I think that was a thing there. He was I think Mavs fans are pretty happy with just the thought of, like, here's a guy that's coming in, and he kind of said, like, look, he didn't say these words, but he kind of just said, like, all right, you guys traded Luka, but at least you have Cooper, and we can build from there and go from there. I'm kind of excited to see what he does. I've been critical of him in the past, mainly because I think he ends up being a bit pretends or talks about making moves but never makes moves, very Danny Ainge like in the past. But like, you look at his track record, you can't really have a lot of complaints.
I think toward the end of the Raptors' tenure, there could be some complaints. The OG and Pascal trades weren't the best trades in the world. The Brandon Ingram trade, obviously not the best trade in the world. The Pirtle trade, not the best trade in the world. Granted, he wasn't the one that gave him the extension, I don't believe.
No.
Or had he left at that point? I can't remember the exact timing of when he left the team last summer. But yeah, I mean, there were some quibbles that you could make toward the end of his tenure, but obviously builds a really good team in Denver, builds a really good team in Toronto that wins a championship, not afraid to make big moves, even if there was some of that, oh, we're going to make this move, but actually we didn't end up making the move.
A quote that just popped up, because I saw this quote before, but didn't want to say it because didn't want to get it wrong, from Masai's press conference.
Is this the Kings quote?
Yes. In Africa, we say, when kings go, kings come. And a king went, and we have a little prince here that we're going to turn into a king. So that's kind of what I was alluding to there. Since the quote came up, I didn't want to get it wrong in that sense. But this is a pretty good hire. Like, this is a good hire, and he'll build out the staff. I think Dumas is going to let him run the team. I'll be curious to see how much Mark Cuban wants to be involved and how Masai deals with that dude constantly walking around. But it's going to be interesting to see how this sort of shakes out. But you're in a good place right now, Dallas. Reputable, well-respected front office in Masai Ujiri running the show. Cooper Flag, you're going to get Kyrie back. I think Kyrie is going to still be a Mav at the end of the offseason. I'm got a draft pick coming. Like, I'm a little bit interested to see how Dallas navigates the offseason now.
Well, it couldn't get worse than the Nico Harrison era. So this is a step in the right direction.
It's so funny. The Nico Harrison era brought them to the finals, and that's never going to be what he's going to be remembered for. And rightfully so. He shouldn't be remembered for. It should be and he made great moves to get them to the finals.
Yeah, and I hated all of the moves at the time he made them, and they all worked out.
I was in. I liked them. I think I remember arguing with Seth Partnow about that.
I remember not liking the Kyrie move. I remember thinking that the prices that they paid for Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington were too high, and they all worked, and they got to the finals. And I don't know that they were particularly close to winning the finals, but you get there, and then you just trade the guy that you built the finals team around for some reason, and then you don't have a job anymore. And now Masai Ujiri gets to run things around the next guy.
Yeah, I liked I thought the Kyrie trade made sense. I wasn't all that excited about it. I liked the PJ Washington and Gafford moves at the time. Anything else you want to hit on before we leave?
Nah, man, I think that's it. Just excited for these game twos the next couple nights. And thankfully, the games are at 7 and 9:30, so we can watch both of them on the same night rather than having to watch the second halves of games the next morning.
Jared is so mad about it. And by the way, I've made fun of you a lot for this over our time podcasting. Like, I understand. I've been able to stay awake and watch all the games, so like an adult. I'm being mean. That was me taking a cheap shot. It is very hard on the East Coast, and I don't know why all you guys live here. Weather ain't that great.
It's not even the lateness. Like in the playoffs, I'll stay up as late as it takes to watch the games. It was the overlapping times at 8 and 9:30 and then 7 and 8:30. We should not have to deal with that in the playoffs.
My only complaint was the national TV games were the blowouts.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was the thing. Like, that's really the issue there. All right, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Make sure you're subscribing to Jared's podcast. Subscribe to Jared's podcast. It's also my podcast. But make sure you're subscribing to Jared's newsletter, Last Night in Basketball. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe to the RealGM feed. Let them know how much you're enjoying having the double dribble there. Make sure you check me out on X Live. We're pretty much going nonstop till I think most of the game 5s in the second round. So make sure you're checking that stuff out. And hey, man, Thank you for listening to the Double Dribble Podcast.
See y'all.